What's going on, everybody? This is Zach from Nintendo Dads, and today I have for you Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. That was a Splatoon theme, by the way. So here's the deal. This week, for the past while, I have gone from... I've been playing a lot of this, a lot of Switch, but I'll be honest, when I started, when I considered, we were talking a little behind the scenes in Nintendo Dad style, I was not excited about playing this game, Fire Emblem. I didn't want to go back to my 3DS. I didn't want to, do all this stuff. Like, I want to play 3DS, or I want to play Switch. The new hotness, right? The new hotness is here. The last thing I want to do is play the Switch or the 3DS. Go back to this. This is my 3DS that I got not too long ago. The Black Friday 3DS with these sweet... I wish I had the name of the fan who sent me these, but you know who you are. You're awesome. Thank you. And, man, let me tell you, getting back into the 3DS, I'm just sitting here, like, flip this open, and, oh, man, feels good. It feels like coming home. Just playing the 3DS. So, Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. This is not a full review, just to be clear. What it is just a discussion. A little bit of a preview. I'm not going to show any footage because I don't have a capture card. I'm not going to go and download trailers and junk. This is just me talking. But I have been playing this game. First off, if you don't know what this was just recently released on the 3DS. This is the third, I'm going to call it the third release on the 3DS. I'm going to count all of Fire Emblem Fates as a single game. A very big, sprawling game, kind of like how you would do like Pokemon Red and Blue as a single game, that sort of deal. Although there are differences there. Anyway, so this is technically the third entry into the Fire Emblem series on the 3DS. The first one, of course, being Fire Emblem Awakening, which I still think is probably the best one. And I'll get to why in a minute. But I think, actually I'll just get to it now. I think that Fire Emblem Awakening is the right mix of all sorts of different things. It's the right mix of complexity, story, characters, setting, the mechanics. It's really, really good. If you haven't played any Fire Emblem game, Awakening is the one to play first, and then you can go from there. Fates got too complicated and broken into pieces and stuff, and Fire Emblem Echoes is basically a remake of Fire Emblem Gaiden, which was on the NES. It's first time it's ever been here in North America, Canada too, but it's the first time here in Canada and the US. Let's set it again, and here's what's interesting about it is that there are certain things that feel very, I don't even want to use the word retro. Like, I've seen the word retro, like, because it is a remake of that game. For example, let's take as an example the mechanics of the weapon triangle, right? If you've played Fire Emblem Heroes on the iOS game, it's a free game, so go play it. At least enough to give you an appreciation of the Fire Emblem franchise. But it has that thing where swords are stronger than axes, axes are stronger than lances, lances are stronger than swords, right? That weapon triangle. This game does not have that at all. And what's interesting is that I kind of like it that way. Like, there are still some things like flyers, like a Pegasus Knight is still weak to archers, but archers now can attack adjacent squares, for example. Whereas if somebody closed quarters with an archer in Awakening or Fates, then that archer cannot attack back, which seems kind of it's a good change. I like it. So as far as that goes, what I want to say, my first impressions, and again, I'm probably 2.5 hours in. The story so far is interesting. I just reached a part literally right before I started this, where some interesting sort of stuff is starting to happen. I think I've done 3 of the dungeons, which I'll get to in a second. But so far, the story is interesting enough. The characters, really what they're doing is they're taking time to develop the characters. They do this interesting thing where all of the main sort of support characters are all villagers in the beginning, and very quickly you get to decide what class you want to turn them into. Which was interesting, right? So I picked like one that was an archer, Pegasus Knight, one that was a mage, and one that was a cavalier, the rider, horse rider guy. It was good. It's interesting. And so I really like it. The characters are interesting. You can tell stuff's going on, but I'm not very far into the game either. So we'll see how this goes. But I enjoy it. It's fun so far. Alm and Celica are very, the very first, the prologue, I think is what they call it, is very good. It's very interesting. And just, it creates this sort of bond with the characters. And I think that the support characters are much better than in some other games where it's, they're a little bit more relatable, I guess. And they're not just, hey, here's a cliche. This is that entire character. They go a little further than that, which I appreciate. The dungeons is the big thing that's different. So basically, the big difference is that there are dungeons which, on the map, there are certain areas that have little shrines or dungeons or whatever, and you go in there and walk around like a Persona game or Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem more recently. And they've got the little enemy walking around inside, right? And you see him, you're like, oh crap, okay, well I'm going to run up and I'm going to hit him with my sword. And in Persona or Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem, you would do that and it would blow out into this turn-based battle, right? Like that RPG style battle. Same exact thing happens in this game, but instead, boom, all of a sudden you've got like the classic grid-based encounter from Fire Emblem, which is really cool. It's an interesting thing. It's a nice way, and they're usually smaller encounters, at least so far that I've seen. There's the terrain is pretty basic, and it's just like, oh, here's a squad of these guys, and you're gonna fight them. So it's pretty cool. The only other thing that I can really talk about right now is the amiibo. And this is going to be a beef for me. Now, I had last Friday, went to Toys R Us, saw the amiibo in store, had it in my hand, and looked at the price point and thought, $30. Ugh. Put it back on the shelf, didn't buy it. This was before I had really decided I was going to get this game. So that I could talk to you guys about it and, about review. So after talking with the other guys, I was like, okay, I'll bite the bullet for everybody. I was like, okay, well, now let's actually see what is in this game. Turns out there's like extra dungeons and stuff that's locked behind it, and I don't even know everything that's locked behind it, but I don't have it. I don't have those amiibo, and when I went back to try and get them, they're gone now, right? Which is part of why I will say that Fire Emblem Awakening is much better, because it's got everything there, right? Like, yes, there's DLC and stuff, but amiibo don't lock. Nothing's locked behind amiibo, and I'm really not. As much as I appreciate that they want stuff to be, that they want amiibo to be a part of their strategy, I don't like feeling like I'm missing out on something because I didn't drop an extra $30. Now, this is $30 Canadian. An extra $30 for 2 pieces of plastic. I don't like that. I do have 5 different Fire Emblem amiibos, though, which is probably why I didn't buy the other ones. So, and these guys basically, I don't know, not really all that impressed with it. Basically what happens, you don't even get to control them. Your main character, either Alm or Celica, will take a health hit and will spawn one of these guys just to last a turn. You don't get to command them. You don't get to say where they go. They just kind of act on their own. And so the idea is you throw them into an area where there's a bunch of bad guys, and then they'll take a bunch of hits, or they'll... actually, I think they can only take 1 hit. But they'll go and attack and whatever for your guys. which is kind of cool, right? Like, that's kind of neat, but also kind of forgettable too. Like, who cares? I don't care about that. I care about extra, but the fact that like extra dungeons and stuff are hidden behind this amiibo paywall, which these other ones don't. These, like Marth here with his derpy face. Can I get it to focus on that? Maybe. No. Anyway, derpy Marth is not great because that's all he does. He doesn't unlock any of those things. So that is that. So that's all I got so far to say about Fire Emblem Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. Hit me up in the comments. What do you guys think about it? Have you picked it up? Are you excited about Fire? I'm excited for Fire Emblem on Switch, frankly. I hope they do something that is just blow the lid off. I'm like, hopefully they'll see it at E3. That'd be great. But I have to say too that I am enjoying this game overall, right? It is, for the most part, it's pretty good. So Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. I do think that if you like those other games, especially, but if you played Fire Emblem Fates, for example, and thought, man, I liked it, but it's a bit much. Like, this is a much simpler version of that game. It's much simpler. I am enjoying it a little bit more. There is not quite so much to get into. There's not quite so many different mechanics. The relationship mechanic is there, but not. I don't really understand it. But yeah, it's good. I enjoy it. If you like those kinds of games, I would recommend it for sure. So all right, well that's it. And until next time, again, hit the like button, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter at Nintendo Dads. Patreon.com/Nintendo Dads is where you can support the show. And until next time, see you guys later.